We've got a lot going on the show today, so looking forward to getting into it.
Yeah, it's a big show, and oh yeah, one other thing that always brings a smile to our heart: the Yankees suck. The Yankees suck. That's the Yankees are in last place, right? I let that sink into you. Now we don't need the relative terms of that, of the fact that they're 4 games over 500 still, and they're in a really good division, and that they're better than every team in the AL Central, and that they're better than all but 2 teams in the AL West. I don't need to hear any of that. All I need to know is that the Yankees are in last place, and we're having a nice day.
That's it. That's all you need to know. I'm a huge Yankee hater. I have been for a long time since I was a kid. So nothing brings me more joy than to know that.
But I mean, it's just really good stuff. Just really good stuff. Okay. Major League Baseball, by the way, got wacky yesterday in the humidity. I think across the country, I think I saw, Tommy, 3 teams lose while scoring at least 10 runs for the first time since like 1900. I think is what I saw. It's
Yeah, it was. I
crazy.
think it was 4 games, right, where you had
Yeah,
both
maybe it
teams
was 4.
scoring, both teams scoring over 10 runs. And yeah, I think you're right. I think what I saw was like 1894 was the last time that happened. My team, the Braves, they were involved in a game with the Diamondbacks. They lost 16-13 to the Diamondbacks. The Royals were a part of it. They won 11-10. There were some really high scoring games last night.
That's across Major League Baseball. The Royals were one of those high scoring games. By the way, they were on the other side of that. They won 11-10 over Detroit. All right, Tommy. Let's start with. I think let's start with the Chiefs, and let's start with quarterbacks and rookies reporting. The full team reports on Friday. First full practice on Sunday. This is an interesting training camp, and it was sort of the tone that Mahomes was trying to portray last night is, how do you get better? How do you get better than winning a Super Bowl? How do you get better than winning an MVP and a Super Bowl for the first time in 24 years? Like, what are we building on here? I don't think any of us really around here have much concern about the desire and motivation of, a Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid led team, but it is interesting, right? You've won 2 of these now. You're the unquestioned favorite coming into this year. All those little doubts that had creeped in prior off seasons, like you're lacking now that bulletin board material, right? A couple of years ago, you had Tampa Bay dominate the Super Bowl, and everybody's, sort of the dynamic was, oh, we figured out the Chiefs. Like, we figured them out. Here's what we're going to do. And the Chiefs did struggle through that season, by the way, in relative terms, offensively. They figured it out, right? It took them a little while, but they figured it out, and they almost made another Super Bowl. And then last year, of course, all the conversation, really most of the season was about Tyreek Hill leaving, right? And you had that bulletin board material. Boom, hang it up. Here we go. There isn't any of that this year. Like, nobody's doubting the Chiefs. There's you might find people that would say they'll pick, the Eagles, or they'll pick maybe Cincinnati or Buffalo. But if they do, they've got the Chiefs right there. Nobody's doubting the Chiefs this year. There really aren't question marks, right? Like, there's nothing that anybody's looking at with this team and this roster and be like, oh, yeah, they're not going to be able to survive without Tyreek Hill. That just changes everything. Like, that doesn't exist this year. And for a team that thrives on that kind of thing, it is an interesting, I think, dynamic in a camp that they haven't seen before. Their biggest enemy right now will be complacency.
I think that's right, but I also think that there is always room for improvement. Like, yeah, the Chiefs are the reigning Super Bowl champions. There's no doubt about that. But we also know that there were areas in their game last season that struggled. Their defense at times wasn't great. They gave up 35 points in the Super Bowl to the Eagles. There were other, situations where they were giving up a lot of points and not able to stop teams. So those are all things that can be built upon and worked on. And so I think I think complacency is part of it. Number one, I don't have any fear that they will become complacent. I have followed this team long enough, and the people that are around this team and that are part of this team, they don't get complacent. I don't have concerns about that. I want to see tangible growth in the areas that I think that we can all point at and say, okay, that wasn't great last year. They won a Super Bowl. They had a lot of success. They won 14 regular season games, the number 1 seed. They won the championship. Yeah, that's all well and good. But if you want to repeat as champions, you've got to get better. You can't just rest on your laurels and say, all right, hey, we're the reigning champs. Let's just go out there and do it again. No, like improve in the areas that didn't go so well last season so you can be a more fully complete team.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that at all. They have done the things that, they took Felix Anudike-Uzomah, and then, they addressed a couple of needs at wide receiver and on the offensive line, and then they attack defense, right? Then in the 4th round, they take a safety. In the 5th round, they take a linebacker. In the 6th round, they take a defensive tackle. In the 7th round, they take a corner. So they did attack that. And I do, when you're looking for things for a team that doesn't have a lot of question marks, right? Like there's no obvious. Last year was obvious, right? How does the wide receiver room look? It was blatantly obvious. 2 years ago, it was, did Tampa Bay figure something out? Like what's going on? And I think both of those were valid and warranted, and to some degree played themselves out in the regular season. The Chiefs transformed themselves offensively last year. We wondered how they would do it. That's how they did it. 2 years ago, the Bucs figured something out on the Chiefs. They did. That they absolutely did. And by the way, last year, everyone else figured it out on the rest of the league. So I think that probably if we're looking for that thing to watch, I think you're right. It's defense. And I think probably more than other teams, it's like these rookies coming in, right? How many of these rookies can find themselves being meaningful contributors? 2 years ago in the draft, they attacked the defense just like they did this year. They did a nice job. This year, they had a couple of holes outside of it. They had to get a receiver. They had to get an offensive lineman. They accomplished that. And then the rest of the way, they attacked defense. And so they have a handful of guys. How many of those guys can be meaningful contributors defensively? I think if they can get 3 of the, 6 of them to, play meaningful snaps, and obviously that's most important for Felix Anudike-Uzomah, but it's important for the other guys too. I was looking at a list of, somebody put it out and it was good. Like it was, brace yourself now for names you're probably going to have to say goodbye to next year in free agency. And, Willie Gay's on there, linebacker, defensive back is on there. So some of these guys stepping up is a long-term thing too. I think this is an interesting rookie camp. It can be, Tommy, if Felix Anudike-Uzomah is good, it could transform everything for the defense, right? Because now you've got 3 pass rushers you feel pretty dang good about consistently. You've got linebackers in there. I think that you're confident in picking up the slack on the run game if you pin your ears back at the line. So yeah, there's stuff to watch, and across the board, probably the rookies are the most interesting thing in camp this year. Now that we know D-Hop's not there, I think it's probably the defensive rookies.
Yeah, and I want to see how these defensive rookies come in and are able to fill some of the holes that are left behind. Like Frank Clark, as we know, no longer there. Juan Thornhill, that hasn't gotten a whole lot of discussion, I don't think, but Thornhill's no longer with the team. He's with the Cleveland Browns, signed that free agent deal during the offseason, and he had been a pretty impactful player in the secondary for Kansas City throughout his career when he was healthy. So, there are holes to fill defensively for Kansas City. And that's what this Chiefs team has done for so long. They draft typically pretty well, and they bring in players that can help fill holes. And they've done that on both sides of the football. Defensively, you mentioned Felix Anudike-Uzomah and some of the other defensive draft picks. They did it offensively too. They drafted Rashee Rice. We'll see if he can be an impact player at the wide receiver position offensively this season for Kansas City. I do think that it's a little bit of a different situation in the wide receiver room coming into this season as it was last season. Last season, remember, it was the shock of not having Tyreek Hill anymore. And what are they going to do? It's, an unproven or, not great wide receiver room. I think that because the Chiefs won a Super Bowl with that room the way it was last year, that quiets some of the questions in that wide receiver room this season. But remember, they don't have Juju Smith-Schuster this year. I don't think that's a huge loss necessarily, but they don't have him, and they're replacing his production with guys like Richie James potentially and Rashee Rice drafting him. Sky Moore, you're going to, you'd think would have a larger role offensively for Kansas City. Kadarius Toney steps into a potentially larger role if he can stay on the field. So there are I don't want to say concerns because I don't really believe that they're necessarily concerns in the wide receiver room. I just think there are questions, and I want to see how the depth chart in the wide receiver room pans out.
Yeah, look, I agree. There are questions. But remember, they sort of replaced Juju Smith-Schuster before the end of the season last year. They went out and got Kadarius Toney, right? So the Chiefs jumped the gun on wide receiver. They went big on Kadarius Toney, and look, they're going to go big on him early in the year. Kadarius Toney, if he stays on the field, if he keeps his head on straight, and he's a polarizing guy, and I hope that the locker room vibe of the Chiefs is a little bit contagious with him, because if he is on the field all the time, he's really, really intriguing, talented, good, whatever you want to say. And then, yeah, Rashee, by the way, we got to figure this out. And maybe because I don't. Rashee Rice or Rashee Rice? Because I've heard both. Do we have the official word on that yet?
I don't know.
We'll find out in our first conversation.
If I've been saying it
with
wrong,
Dan
then
Israel.
yeah, I'll get it.
I've said it both
right
ways
pretty soon.
I've said it both ways because I don't know. We'll get that final word when we. I assume we'll have Dan Israel again this year, like we have in the past. We'll get the official word there. Before we hear it out of the words of the mouth of Mitch Holthus, we'll know which way it really is.
I do have some news real quick about training camp that has come down in the last couple of minutes. So there has been speculation about the status of Isaiah Pacheco going into training camp, and would he begin the season on the injured list? Andy Reid talked about it yesterday. He's got an injured shoulder. He has reported to training camp, and he is practicing today. And so that is, you would think, a good sign that he probably, depending on how it goes, may not start the season on the injured list. I think that's obviously a big boon for the running back room and what they plan on doing as far as that position is concerned.
Well, I've told you before, I don't like the depth of the running back room. I don't like it. I don't think they're deep enough at that position. And I think if they can get Chris Jones done, which, we overlooked that a little bit, that is the biggest story of training camp until it's not, right? Like, it'll be a massive story until it's not a story, which would be when he signs his extension. And I guess the clock is ticking to Friday, Tommy. I haven't really seen anything on whether Chris Jones is expected to report or not.Maybe that's because most people assume a deal will get done before Friday. You and I both thought a deal would already be done for Chris Jones, and it's not. So I guess we need to watch that a little bit. But at the running back room, if they free up money, I don't like the depth at running back for Kansas City. I do not feel confident in Isaiah Pacheco and his running style holding up and what's behind him. I just don't. I really think that if the money's there and you see names, not necessarily Dalvin Cook, but like if you see Zeke or Leonard Fournette or just a guy, right, that you would be like, okay, if we have, who are you more? Let me ask it to you this way, Tommy. It's December, right? And you're in a really meaningful game. Let's say it's the Bengals game, right? New Year's Eve. You're trying to position yourself for the number one seed, whatever, and Isaiah Pacheco's banged up. Because I don't think Isaiah Pacheco's not going to play 17 games. He runs too violently for that. So who do you feel more confident in leading the backfield in that game? Clyde Edwards-Helaire or Zeke Elliott or Leonard Fournette? Who are you more confident if you had to say, hey, we need you to carry the ball 16 times in this game? We may be in a position where we need to bleed some clock late in this game. Who are you more confident in?
Well, I think that you're also forgetting Jerick McKinnon is on the roster, and
I like
Jerick McKinnon.
I love Jerick McKinnon. He's not. I love his
versatility. I think that he's got that ability to. Look at what he did in the Super Bowl.
He's going to be a factor in every game, but he's not that guy. He's not that player, right? He's never. Just go look at his career. He's rarely made it through a season. He's never carried it. Even when he was a full-time guy in Minnesota, he's never carried it, Tommy, more than 160 times in a game. He carried it 72 times last year. I think he's a factor in every game he plays. Jerick McKinnon, to me, isn't even a part of this because he's a weapon in the offense anytime he's out there. But he's not the guy you want lined up in the fourth quarter in the cold weather to pick up a first down on 3rd and 2.
hasn't Isaiah Pacheco been that guy though? We've
Of
seen
course
him
he
do
has.
it game in and
Yes,
game
I'm
out
not
last
saying
season.
Pacheco's not the guy. I'm saying I don't think Pacheco holds up for the whole season. That's my fear. And maybe he does. I hope he does. Don't misunderstand me. Isaiah Pacheco's the guy. That's not what I'm saying at all.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is I think they're thin behind him in the role that he needs to play for this team.
I mean, I think I can, guess pretty strongly here that a guy like Zeke Elliott probably isn't going to go to Kansas City to play behind Isaiah Pacheco and potentially Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Like, I'm not sure that that's going to be the case. I'm not sure that
I
you're
don't
going to
think
find
they'd
a
play
running back like
behind.
that.
I don't think they'd play behind Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is interesting. I'm glad he's still there, but he hasn't shown us, right? Like he hasn't really shown us anything to give that role. I think for a team where you're really, and look, we're like just with a microscope trying to find things to think about this training camp, but that's their room. And then they have LaMichael Pirine. And I suppose I need to give LaMichael Pirine a little more credit because he sort of is that guy too. So maybe that's enough. I just think it's interesting and something. I mean, they went out and got Ronald Jones last year, like that kind of a thing, just in case, right?
Here's
like
where I'm
an
at,
emergency plan.
Where I'm at with that is I'm perfectly content for the Chiefs to start the season with the running back room that they have. They've got
four
Pacheco,
guys.
they've got Edwards-Helaire, they've got Pirine, they've got McKinnon. Run with them. And if you get into December and Pacheco gets hurt, then you can probably go sign somebody else.
I'm a fool, Tommy. I forgot about Deneric Prince, who they love. Yeah. I forgot about Deneric Prince. So Deneric Prince is this guy, and I've seen some of the videos in the last couple of days of a guy to sort of watch. And you're probably right on the room. I totally forgot about him, but they really like him out of Tulsa, and he's versatile, and I mean, it looks like to me he's a little like Clyde Edwards-Helaire, but he's big. Tommy's 6 foot, 216 pounds. So maybe that's what they see there. And maybe
if you've been
right.
following any of what the Chiefs have done in OTAs, I mean, Prince has been a guy that they've been super high on. Right. Coming in as an undrafted
and that
free
happens
agent.
in OTAs. Yeah. OTAs are weird, but I forgot about Prince and his little darling OTA session. So maybe that is enough. I mean, we'll see because they'll have cuts and everything else. I keep thinking about like what could they do with what's out there? Well, the position that's been glaring and staring at us over the last few weeks is there's great running backs out on the market right now. There are guys who have been great, right? Who probably still have plenty left in the tank who just aren't, the teams aren't going to pay him a ton of money. Real quick, while we're talking Chiefs, Austin on our video stream, which you can find, by the way, on Facebook, on YouTube, and on Twitter, ask about Sky Moore and how big do we think he will be in the offense this year? Look, you guys know what I think about Sky Moore. I think he's got a chance to be great, like good, really good to great. I think that he fits everything about this team so well. And I would expect a big step up, but I expected a big rookie year and was wrong. So for me, I would expect a big step up, a bigger role, and a far more, Mahomes will lean on him for reliability quite a bit, I think, this year. I think we did start to see it late last year.
I think the best thing for Sky Moore was that Kadarius Toney came in because that took the pressure off of Sky Moore's shoulders to return punts. He was super unfamiliar with that, didn't work out well, and the guy lost a lot of confidence. And so I think that that's been a big help for him to not have to worry about that. And catching that touchdown pass in the Super Bowl, I think is a really good thing for him moving forward. I think he's going to have a bigger role. I wasn't as high on him last year as you were, but I'm at the point now where coming into year number 2, I think he's got a chance to really break out.
But you could see it, right? Late in the year, like you could see the stuff that I like about him. He's big. He's versatile. He can catch the ball, maybe not catch a punt, but he can catch the ball coming from Patrick Mahomes. I think it's there. I do think it's there, and I do like his chances. Okay, let's take a quick break. We'll come back. Let's hit the latest on conference realignment. Again, we'll mention Kevin Saul, Wichita State Athletic Director, joining us at the top of the hour. I'm curious to know what he thinks about TBT coming in. Like, how excited is he for that? Because he hasn't seen that yet here. I don't think. Maybe he came in or something. But we'll get to that with Kevin Saul, get the latest on the Shockers who are practicing for the first time this week ahead of that Greece trip, see if he's checked in on practice and if he has any thoughts on that. It's all coming up. Albracht, Castor, Sports Daily.
Your phone call is welcome. 869-1240. Sports Daily on 97.5 and 1240. KFH, Wichita's #1 sports talk radio.
Join Mark Patrick seminars and lose the weight or stop smoking guaranteed, only $49.99. Saturday, August 12th at the Spring Hill Suites by Marriott Wichita Airport in Wichita. Weight loss seminar starts at 11 a.m. Registration at 10:30 a.m. Stop smoking starts at 2 p.m. Registration at 1:30 p.m.
Toppers Plus Truck Accessories has moved to a new location at 333 Northwest Street. We're ready to hook you up for trailer season, whether you're towing your boat, cycle, RV, or lawn equipment. Toppers Plus has receiver hitches, goosenecks, fifth wheel hitches, brake controllers, and trailer wiring. Choose from top brands like B&W Hitches made in Kansas or Reese Curtain and Draw Type. Hitches matter. Get trailer season ready at Toppers Plus. New location, 333 Northwest Street or toppersplusks.com.
Make your truck work for you.
If you're looking to pave your driveway or parking lot, call Pave the Way first for a fast, free estimate today. They're Wichita's leader in the pavement industry, specializing in asphalt and concrete installation and repair, custom tailoring their estimate to fit your individual needs and budget. Pave the Way, the pavement professionals, 316-990-5855 or online at pavethewayusa.com.
Pave the way. Kicking asphalt every day.
There's never been a better time to save big on brand name furniture and mattresses than right now. During Crazy J's huge $1 million inventory liquidation sale. Living room, dining room, and bedroom groups, mattress sets, bunk beds, and so much more. All 50% off store-wide while supplies last. No exclusions. Shop early while selection is best. Open 7 days a week east at 1026 South Oliver or west at 604 North Tyler. Wichita's favorite furniture store since 1997. Crazy J's Furniture and Sleep Shop. Safest deal in town.
Join Hope Ranch for Women on September 7th for an inspirational event at the Stockyard. It's the annual Embrace Hope fundraiser, hosted by Tim Tebow. Tim actively advocates for survivors and combats to stop human trafficking on a national and global scale. This event supports women who have been exploited and trafficked to find hope and rehabilitation at Hope Ranch for Women. Get your tickets today at hoperanchforwomen.com. That's hoperanchforwomen.com. It's Embrace Hope, September 7th at the Stockyard.
Baseball is in full swing. The free Odyssey app lets you listen to local coverage for the team you love, live stream your favorite sports radio station, or jump back and listen to the best segments on demand.
Don't forget we talk to the manager every Tuesday at 2 p.m.
Don't listen to some guy from the other side of the country tell you about your team. Live conversations for your local team. No matter where you are, your season, your Odyssey. Get in the game and download the free Odyssey app today.
At Grainger, we're for the ones who pay attention to every little detail. The ones who fuss, tinker, and sweat the small stuff. Because we know the tiniest thing can make the biggest difference when it comes to keeping business moving. We get it. We're the same way, offering access to product experts to help you quickly and easily find what you need. So whatever your industry, you know you're always getting professional grade products. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Hey everyone, Boomer Esiason here, and for a championship team, every player needs to be a perfect fit. It's just like your vehicle. Every part needs to fit just right. So the next time you need parts or accessories, head to eBay Motors. With eBay Guaranteed Fit, you can be sure every part you need fits right the first time. Just look for the green check. With over 122 million parts to choose from, you'll be back in the game in no time. So get the right parts, the right fit, at the right prices at ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
Discover credit cards automatically double all the cash back you earn at the end of your first year, which means, wait, hold up. Question for the audio engineer.
Go ahead.
Did I read that right? Discover automatically doubles all your cash back?
Yeah, that's what the script says.
So if I get a Discover card right now, I can earn twice the cash back.
Apparently. Wait! Unlimited first-year cash back match. Only from Discover. See terms and learn more at discover.com/match.
Anywhere fans go to cheer on their team, there are behind-the-scenes MVPs, ensuring everything is game day ready. We see you, Joe, fixing seats so every fan can enjoy every game. And Allie, who keeps her stadium running smoothly from the moment the first game starts to the last play of the season. At Grainger, you're our MVPs, and we're always here for you. With supplies and solutions for every industry, 24/7 customer support. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Imagine a career where you see your work every time you look up into the sky. At Textron Aviation, we make world-class Cessna and Beechcraft aircraft, and we're looking for people to join us. Explore the possibilities at txtav.com/careers.
Brought to you by Textron Aviation. Explore the possibilities at txtav.com/careers.
Oh, okay, take it easy. We're going on the air.
This is Sports Daily on KFH.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Sports Daily, KFH. It's Albracht and Castor. Glad to be here with you. Tommy, the Pac-12 is not going to have an announcement on a new media deal Friday at Media Day. Surprise, surprise to nobody, right, at this point. Now, fool me once, right? Shame on me kind of a deal here. It's they're saying it's because, and according to reporting Dennis Dodd and others, that it's because other people have stepped to the table in the bidding. But I think that logically we have to say because there's not a good enough deal in place. Now, I will say this. They acted too slow. They got trumped by the Big 12, getting a deal done first and quickly. But I'm to the point now, Tommy, there is a little unease currently in the economy. Obviously, we're seeing the media landscape and the job slashes and all that. Like, everybody's preparing. And now I sort of wonder, like, if we come out of that, and I'm an optimist, and I think that we will, but if we come out of that sooner than later, and we're sitting here on the way out of it, and everyone then becomes that optimistic, their deal doesn't expire until July of 2024. Is there any advantage, you think, to the Pac-12 now sort of waiting, which seems counterintuitive to, what we thought all along, but like, what if they do wait until another 6 months to sort of let things settle? Because I'm not quite sure how much worse, again, just in the media landscape, right, things are going to get, because the slashes are happening now, the budget cuts and all that stuff, that's happening right now in the industry. I don't know that it's going to keep happening for 6 months. And I suppose there's a chance it could start to go the other way where everyone's like, oh, you know what? It's not going to be so bad. Let's make a big investment here.
Yeah, I'm reading the article from ESPN about how the deal won't be announced at Media Day. And they have this unnamed source who says,
which is a Pac-12 official,
right? Our 10 schools have been ridiculously patient. That patience is about to pay off. Okay, is it really? Because, like, kind of like you, fool me once, I just don't believe it. And I'll believe it when I see it, I guess. But all we've heard for months is it's coming. It's coming. Like, just wait, be patient. We've got some, and they have nothing. If they had something, you better believe they would have announced it by now. Right. Because there is literally no benefit to waiting to announce a deal if they already have it done. There is none, because if you announce it, then you calm the waters with the schools. It probably makes Brett Yormark and the Big 12 back off a little bit on the schools that they want to pursue in the Pac-12, because then it makes the member schools in the Pac-12 a little bit more comfortable with the future. So there's no benefit to holding on to something and waiting. And if they actually had something ready to go, they would have said it by now. And I've heard all of these like different, speculations about it's going to be a mix of linear and digital and streaming. And okay, I don't care. I just want to know what's going on. And if I'm one of the member schools, if I'm the president of Colorado, or if I'm, at Oregon or whatever, I just want to know what I'm getting myself into for the next decade plus. I don't believe that there really is anything of significance until I actually see it.
Well, I don't either. And I'm not sure that they're saying there's something of significance other than they either don't have one at all, Tommy, or they're going to be content to wait and let as many bidders come into the process. Like now, so San Diego State, the Mountain West lets them back in today, basically. You cover the legal fees we had to go through to get this, and we'll let you back in. San Diego State was obviously had the wool pulled over their eyes by the Pac-12. if San Diego State's not out there, I mean, I guess SMU's not that much of a needle mover that, it's holding anything up. I mean, the Pac-12 may just say, you know what, if it ain't there, we're going to wait. And I'm not so sure that's not the wrong play here, because if it's not there, that means there's not a good one there. And the worst thing you can do if you're the Pac-12 is sign a bad one, right? Like
Right.
that's what the ACC is dealing with now, which is going to become just a massive problem for that league very soon. It already is. Like they're so far lapped by the field because of their bad deal, and it's so binding for so long that's like the worst thing you can do. So signing a bad deal to me is worse than waiting for on just like on a slim hope that a better one might come. Now, there's more inherent risk, I think, in that you get poached for sure, because I think at some point schools have to be like, we can't take that sort of a risk. But the Pac-12's, Pac-12's in sort of a survival mode anyway, right? So if there's not a deal there, which I'm with you, and we've said this all along, if there was a good deal, they'd have already signed a good deal. This all tells me there's not a good deal, clearly. And if there's not a good deal, I'm not so sure that the best play isn't just to hang tight and see if the troubling waters economically across the landscape right now calm and cool a little bit as we get
But
into...
if you hang tight and you don't do anything and you just say, you know what, we're going to let our current deal continue to run for now, and we'll revisit this in 6 months or a year when maybe things have settled down in the landscape. At that point, what is keeping the member schools in the Pac-12 from getting antsy and wanting to jump ship? And what would be keeping a conference like the Big 12 from going out and trying to poach them?
That's the risk. But I mean, at some point you do want to still earn the most that you can. Because, okay, let's flip that around a little bit. Let's say they go now with a deal that's not great, like not the best it could be. And now you've got member institutions looking at it like, well, that's not a very good deal. I mean, you run that risk of them wanting to leave anyway, right?
Yeah.
Like, so I think the risk on that is involved both ways. And you just sort of have to hope for blind faith. And at the same time, if you're the Big 12, I mean, you're all over this news yesterday. Hey, guys, I told you so. Like, they don't have a deal. We've got one, and it's great. And you could come jump in right now and be a part of what we're growing, because there's two very clear arrows on the leagues, right? One's pointed up and one's at best pointed sideways, and maybe worse than that. Like, you just keep making that pitch. And look, we think Colorado's a really attractive ad for the Big 12. Maybe it's not. I don't know. I mean, what if you heard Phil Steele earlier this week? Vegas is, their win total on Colorado is like 3.5 games, right? Like, we think they're going to be interesting, and I do still contend they'll be the most interesting team right out of the gates.
Going to get a lot of attention regardless if they win.
But they might win 4 games this year, right? So, and what looked like this massive collection of talent for Prime has now been a hot mess. So, yeah, that
but
could
would
go
there be?
sideways.
I mean, is there another program in America that would be more interesting in winning only 3 games? I don't think so. I mean, like they're going to get so much attention one way or another that I'm not sure the win total really even matters for the eyeballs long term. But for the eyeballs on the product this season, the win total doesn't really matter.
If they win 3 games this season, the eyeballs next season are going to go down significantly, though, is what I'm saying.
So?
Like,
because I think that it's long term.
What's the long-term value
with Prime there, and the way that he's wanting to build that program, and it's like Hard Knocks in college football, right? Like, I mean, there are reasons why cameras follow Dion around wherever he goes. I think that you would have still a significant amount of eyeballs, even if Colorado only wins a couple of games this year, because people want to see what he's going to do.
Do you remember how much attention Memphis basketball had when Penny first got there and put together all those classes? That same sort of attention isn't still there with Memphis. Like, it wears off. That shine wears off unless you're winning at an insanely high level, or definitely more than like 3 games, right? We've had celebrity coaches. Les Miles was a celebrity coach of some sort, or tried to be, in Lawrence. If Prime doesn't win games there, how attractive is Colorado? Now, I would still contend, honestly, that they'd be attractive, because I think their football profile would enhance in the Big 12. So I would still take them. Right. And I would absolutely take Arizona. Arizona would be my, outside of Oregon and Washington, of course, who aren't going to come. Arizona would be the team that I would be the most locked into if I was the Big 12. They fit the profile to me as much as Colorado does. So they'll continue. You better believe they'll continue having that conversation as the Pac-12's feet drag on this. And if the Pac-12 are dragging their feet because they think a better deal can come at this point, I don't know that they have much of a choice. It tells me, it makes me fear for them that the deal that is on the table is so bad that they're just willing to not take a deal right now. That's where if I'm a member institution, I'm like,
yeah.
Ugh, like, you think there's going to be more bidders now? Like, why? Why would there be more bidders now that weren't there 6 months ago? That just tells me that what you have is very bad.
How much of this San Diego State debacle is San Diego State peeking behind the curtain of the Pac-12 and then saying, you know what? I think we might hang out in the Mountain West for a little while longer, versus the narrative of the Pac-12 never inviting San Diego State. I don't know. I mean, I don't know the inner workings of all of this, but it wouldn't surprise me if San Diego State got a little bit of a look into the way that all these negotiations have gone with the Pac-12 and said, yeah, actually, on second thought, we might go back to the Mountain West and try to make that work for at least a couple more years.
I'm not sure there's much doubt about that. Like, whether it was a look behind the curtain or whether it was an ice bath of reality of like, oh crap, like they're not ready. We're out on an island here. They were very dishonest with how far along this thing was, and now we're like, oh,
because
no.
Wasn't the narrative that the Pac-12 never actually invited San Diego State, and that was kind of what everybody rode on for a while. And even from the beginning of that, I thought, okay, I don't think it's that as much as San Diego State realized they made a mistake, because the Pac-12 is nowhere near a point to be able to actually welcome them and give them something of significance.
There's no way San Diego State misread it that badly. I think they were deceived, right? I think that, and good for them that they landed back in the Mountain West. I don't know what the Mountain West was supposed to do, because they're lame duck, right? They're going to leave the first opportunity they get. They've obviously showed you that hand. But at the same time, if you're the Mountain West, they do make your league a lot better. I suppose in a relative term, you could equate it to, like, what if everything in the SEC just blew up in Texas and Oklahoma's face last minute? You think the Big 12 would take them back? Of course they would.
Yeah, they would.
Of course they would. So, it's just, it's probably as much that as anything, but they do feel lame duck. I still think in a broader expansion, they'd be a really interesting choice or option for the Big 12, but no deal for the Pac-12. We've been following that thing. So just wanted to give everybody that update. We thought by media days, they could just keep on kicking that can. It's going to fall off a cliff here pretty soon, but we're not going to have it.
Really quickly, how in the hell does George Klavikov keep his job? I just don't,
we'll see what kind of media deal he comes up with. I mean, that's ultimately it. If he comes up with a good media deal, this is all a moot point. If he delivers, even if it happens last minute and they get a good deal, it's like, well, see, I told you so, and that's fine. Like, then he wins. Then the Pac-12 wins. If they get a great media deal, good for them. Like, that's what. But it's not there now, which is the problem for them. Like, it's clearly not there. 869-1240 is the number to call. Kevin Saul coming up, top of the hour. Next, a chance at a giveaway. And we will go through a couple other items before we get into some shocker talk. The TBT starts tonight. A little later, Mass Street playing at 8 o'clock. Lots to get through today on a Wednesday. It's Albracht and Castor at Sports Daily. Jad Chambers producing, and that IHOP hotline is open. 869-1240. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back, everybody. We survived yesterday's heat, which was staggering. It was steamy out there. I keep trying to convince Ross Jansen, our chief meteorologist, #1 celebrity in Wichita, Tommy, to incorporate. We have Storm Team weather alert days, right, for heat or I keep looking for like a swamp butt alert day. Yesterday was a level 5 swamp butt alert day. And I think that people would be receptive to that. Like, this is a day you might have to change your clothes in the middle of the day if you've been outside at all, because you're going to sweat. You're going to sweat a lot. I think people would be into that.
I'm okay with that. I mean, if I can get an alert ahead of time that I need to probably rock a different pair of pants, just so I don't show it off, then that would be super helpful for me. Like, I need to get that alert in the morning, like on my phone as I'm getting dressed. And if it could, if my phone could flash and make a loud noise or whatever, like swamp butt alert, that would help me out significantly.
Everyone, maybe we'll just do it here, because I don't think we're going to get it incorporated on TV as hard as I
might
get try.
So maybe get like a sounder, like a
maybe Chad will, on these days we can come back and and now a Sports Daily Swamp Butt Alert Day.
I love it.
Announcer guy voice and everything. So we'll see about that. Today, not quite as bad. Although on my morning walk, it was like foggy again. So it's humid out there, but it's not nearly as hot. It didn't seem like today. Forgive me if you're on the video stream and I come in and I just, I look like I got hit by a bus. I'm fine. I just walked outside for like a half hour. That's usually what that looks like. It is still hot though. Not as hot, but hot. So in the spirit of that, let's set some folks up with a way to cool down and get refreshed with some HTO. Available, of course, for you at our East location, 21st and 127th, West at 13th and Tyler. We'll get you a Derby location here around the area pretty soon, too. Our friend Leah opening that store down there. Not yet, but coming. So these will be good for Wichita East and West. Free iced tea. We'll give away 2 of them right now. More than 25 flavors. You can go inside. You can try them all for free, and then you can fill up your cup for free on us here at Sports Daily. IHOP hotline, 869-1240. Jad will get us a couple given away here to a winner while we make our way through this final segment. Tommy, we get TBT underway tonight. The Aftershocks and Purple and Black play tomorrow night. Tonight it's Mass Street with the sort of the spotlight by themselves. I suspect that their crowd will grow because we went to their practice yesterday and they had quite a few fans at practice. I think people have caught on to the star power of this roster, which is really, really interesting. The Morris twins have coached in this tournament before. We learned last week, or at least I learned that last week. So they have some experience here. It's really becomes like all this talent collected. Can they adapt to this style of tournament? Because it is a little bit different. That's why you see some of these teams who have a lot of experience in it do well. But at some point, talent does shine through. I am very curious to know what this team looks like. I know the Aftershocks are going to be good because they've been doing it now for a long time. Purple and Black even has a little more experience, but Mass Street's kind of a wild card in all this.
Yeah, a couple of injury updates that I saw earlier today about the Mass Street team. So Mario Chalmers is out for the game tonight, and Dedrick Lawson is also out for the game tonight.
Okay.
That's according to the official TBT Twitter page. So a couple of really high-profile players on that Kansas alumni team will not play, at least in their first game tonight against We Are D3.
That is pretty significant. Because I thought Dedrick Lawson would be a contributor. I wonder, just like, does youth shine through in the bigs, and like Mitch Lightfoot's able to be a contributor, or do we see like Thomas Robinson come through? And that's what that's what you don't know as well. Bill Self. I will also want to know if Bill Self's going to come down for any of these games. That would be cool if Self shows up to watch his guys. I know he went to their practice that was in Lawrence. I also know it's an insanely busy time of the year for college coaches and recruiting and all that. So who knows? But who do you think is going to be the guy on this team that's like, oh man, look at that?
Oh man, I know you mentioned Thomas Robinson. I'm really excited to see him play. I know he's, getting a little bit older, but I'm sure he can still ball. So that's really intriguing to me. He would be one main guy. I really feel like an underrated Kansas player in his time in Lawrence was Kevin Young. I loved watching Kevin Young play when he was there. He's on the roster. So that's going to be fun for me to watch because I was always a big fan of his. And I never really felt like he got the accolades that he deserved when he was on that team. So I don't know. I think that I'm really intrigued to see how the Morris twins balance out this roster.
They're taking it serious. I can tell you that. They scrimmaged against the current KU team. Essentially, it was a really cool moment. It's just like, I want them to survive in this tournament as much that like it's so much fun for the fanfare. I'll say this: Thomas Robinson, from the outs, because I wasn't covering them like I do now. I was not living here then. He was up there. He might have been like my favorite KU guy from afar. But I'd have to really think about that before. But we'll see. It's going to be fun tonight. Hopefully they, play well, survive, get a little momentum, and can make their way through. Because if they played either Wichita State or K-State in a super regional next Tuesday, it's going to be. You can talk about getting the hype train going. Let's go. 869-1240. The IHOP hotline's open. We'll come back. Kevin Saul, Wichita State Athletic Director, joins us next on Sports Daily.
Left Out Loud Mornings with Bob and Tom on 97.5 and
1240 KFH.
Hey, Shocker fans, want the latest on Wichita State athletics? Let's go right to the source with Shocker AD Kevin Saul.
And we do welcome in Kevin Saul to the program again for a bi-weekly visit here on Sports Daily. Jacob Albracht, Tommy Castor with you, Jad Chambers producing. Kevin, how are you? Enjoying the summer, toes in the sand, right? Just nothing going on for you this time of year, huh?
Yeah, good morning. No, it's been good. We actually just got back from a 5-day fly-in fishing trip in Canada. Got back about 3 a.m. this morning, so we're running hot on some coffee and kind of grinding through it, but had a great time. It was a good 5 days with my oldest son and some friends that we've met throughout the year, and flew up deep into Canada where there's no cell phone reception and no email, so it was a nice break for about 5 days.
Heck yeah. That sounds just to go like not have the phone or be connected sounds pretty amazing. It's a cool time around campus though. Let's start with the topical stuff because TBT starts tonight. You get the KU alumni game. Wichita State, K-State's alumni teams play both tomorrow night. What's the buzz around it? This is You had this last year, correct? You just walked into it, but what are things looking like for the tournament there at Koch Arena over the next, I don't know, 10 days or so?
Yeah, it should be a great 10 days. Our staff has worked really hard at it. I have to give kudos to Brad Pittman and Gretchen Torline and Tammy Cutler. So many folks get in the middle of that, and it really doesn't go without their support. So the local institutional personnel do a remarkable job in the TBT. And it's a tournament that's grown over the last decade quite a bit. So this will be, I think, the second time, Jacob, that we have hosted what you would say is a consolidated 2 regionals. So we have the KU regional and we have the Wichita State regional. So more games than we hosted last year. We play, obviously, the Aftershocks play on Thursday. And then should we be fortunate to win, we'd play on Friday. We got a special weekend planned. Friday night is the annual alumni Shocker basketball players reunion that we do in the Champions Club prior to the game. So looking forward to that. It's always a great time to see Shockers from generation to generation having a few hours to spend with each other. And then we've got a couple of special recognitions on Friday night. We're going to recognize Fred Van Fleet, Steve and Regine Fellmeyer, and many, many others who helped us get to $1 million fundraising goal to renovate the Koch Arena weight room. We're going to honor those guys on Friday at halftime, and then we'll also for the Final Four team at halftime on Friday. Saturday night, there's a Final Four reunion that's been put on by Armchair Strategies. Really excited about that turnout, guys. I think the capacity for it is about 300, and they've sold 292 tickets as of yesterday. So there's just a handful of tickets left for that Final Four reunion at the Mark Arts Center. And that event will go towards supporting NIL for our current players as well. So we're really excited about the weekend.
Kevin, I know that obviously here in Wichita, we know how Shocker fans show out for whether it's regular season games with the current team or TBT games with the Aftershocks. We've got the opportunity here locally to have not only Wichita State alumni, but Kansas alumni, Kansas State, Missouri, Arkansas, like really that true regional flavor right here in Wichita. What does that mean to you to have all of these fans from these regional teams coming into one place and really being able to, showcase what Koch Arena has to offer?
Well, I think first and foremost, Tommy, basketball is our premier event, right? It's what drives us financially in our department, and it's important because I think it keeps the fan base connected to basketball in Wichita during what can be a slow time during the year for other institutions. And so to be able to host fans and former players from all the institutions regionally that you just mentioned is certainly fantastic. I mean, you start thinking about next year's schedule, and we've got Missouri and Kansas State and Kansas, and we've got some great teams on the schedule, and we like to continue to schedule regionally. So I think it's another hit in the summer for folks in terms of getting the basketball fix that is great for us. It's a great event. It's good for our campus. It gets a lot of prospective students to campus that it can see what Wichita State's all about. So we've had a long run. I mentioned this to you guys before when I was at Murray State. We engaged the TBT pretty heavily on hosting a regional in Murray. And as we were walking through those financial and operational conversations, I asked the question, I said, hey, who does it the best in the country? Because that's what we want to replicate. And they said Wichita State, and they have for years. So it's, I think we're the industry standard as it relates to the TBT, and we'll continue to build and grow. It should be a fun 7 days or so here.
Yeah, it's not close. That's what we understand too when we talk to the TBT folks. And that's why, there's now two rounds basically, or two sets of tournaments here. Kevin Saul, Wichita State athletic director, joining us. I mean, you grew up in this state. You were up in Manhattan, so you've grown up and watched and seen and, kept up with, I'm sure, some of the players that'll be here from all three of these teams. But I look at like the Mass Street team that plays tonight. If I'm a KU fan, like this is a who's who type thing for them too this year. Like that is a star-studded roster for, the Bill Self era, essentially, of KU basketball.
Well, I think when you get into Lawrence, I mean, Terry Nooner would tell you that as a former player, scholarship or not, you could probably walk into any restaurant in Lawrence and get a pretty significant discount on your meal. They love their basketball players. So I expect we're going to see a lot of blue and red tonight, and should be, again, like I said, a great 5 to 7 days. It's such an interesting concept. It's growing from a television standpoint. It's certainly in a period of time in the annual cycle of television where the networks need some inventory, and so that piece is really helpful. But I think it allows fan bases to, again, get their basketball fix, but to do it with familiar faces for individuals that they spent a lot of time and effort and energy and their treasure supporting over the years. So it's a really unique concept, and it continues to grow.
You mentioned the Final Four reunion, and I know that, man, like I was here 10 years ago when that happened, when Wichita State went on that run, and it was, something that absolutely unified this community. And I've never been a part of anything like that, either before or ever since. For you and your position at Wichita State, getting a chance to welcome these guys back to Wichita, and, see them all together and have them reminisce on that Final Four run. What does that mean to you?
Well, it means a lot. It's obviously a set of individuals that committed everything to a cause and were incredibly successful. They identified a pathway to the preeminent goal for our basketball programs. So first and foremost, it tells our current players, it tells our recruits, it tells our community, we can do it here. We've done it twice here. We will continue to strive to get to Final Fours. That is our goal. It certainly takes all the right pieces in place to do that, and a little bit of luck. Having been a part of 3 Final Four teams, and intimately involved in the team operations throughout the year and in the postseason, there's a good bit of luck that comes into it as well. So it's a tremendous opportunity for us this weekend to highlight a unbelievable group of young men, to celebrate their accomplishments from 10 years ago and over the last decade, to welcome Fred and so many others, and Ron and Evan, all those guys back. And don't walk past the benefit of our current players being around that dynamic. That dynamic is really important, because the more time our current players can spend with those guys to hear what it takes to be successful, it's just another set of voices in addition to their coaching staff and the administration talking about, hey, this is the pathway to the Final Four. And if you don't, I truly believe, if you don't speak it, then you don't believe it. And if you don't believe it, you won't get there. And so we've got to speak it, and we've got to do all the things behind the scenes, obviously, to support it financially and otherwise. But it's a great weekend. It means a lot. We're really excited to celebrate these guys and everything they've done for our campus, our programs, and the community.
Yeah, it's an interesting concept, and because I've seen those guys, I remember in years past that interaction and how much it meant to the young players. As Kevin Saul joins us, Wichita State athletic director, and that's what obviously everything's trying to get back to for that program. And the 10 extra practices happening now, the first real chance I think for Paul Mills to get in the gym with those guys has been happening this week, which is good to see. We're intrigued. To see what the style is like. These practices that are happening now, it is a nice way for us to get that first look. You've been out of town. Have you had a chance at all to make it over or hear from anybody on what you're looking, what you're looking at so far early on with this roster? It sounds, if you talk to Paul Mills, like it's all about the fundamentals at this point.
There's no doubt about it. He's very foundational in these early days. You have a new set of coaches and a new system, new teammates, and so I don't think you can take anything for granted. There's no assumptions being made. The expectations for how they play, going through all those foundational elements. I've had an opportunity to attend some of the 4-on-1s and non-full team practices. Certainly, I've had a chance to hang around with our staff a little bit, but looking forward here to the next really 2 weeks now as we lead up to the Greece trip from August 1st to August 10th. I've had an opportunity to do a couple of these foreign tours, and the benefits are tremendous in terms of preparation, familiarity, learning new systems, but then also being able to compete, figuring out some of your rotations and the lineups that are going to be most effective together. It certainly gives our coaches a lot of film to digest and teach off of over the next couple of months as we prepare for the basketball season. So it's a great time of year for us.
Kevin, it's been really exciting over the last couple of weeks to keep an eye on Brian Green's Twitter page. And I know that he's been incredibly busy in going all around and recruiting and bringing in new players to the baseball program. Would love to get an update from you on the status and just the overall where things stand with baseball and the first month or so of Brian Green in that role.
Well, guys, it has been 35, 36 days. And in that period of time, I think he being Brian, has hired a first-class staff in Coach Overcash, Coach Claggett, Coach Miller. We hired a director of operations in Tad Rada. They've done a bang-up job. They have recruited 35 players in the last, like I said, 35, 36 days. And we're getting close to the spot where we might have one or two more roster spots left. And so you've got a tremendous 23 class that Brian and his staff have been able to hold on to. We've got two young pitchers, freshmen, that will be coming in that have touched 98 miles an hour. We have guys that have led either their respective institution or their league or nationally in significant stats like home run or batting average or whatever the case may be. You'll see it's got a heavy JUCO flavor to it. I think that will balance out over the years to a combination of both high school and JUCO and portal. But from my perspective, they've done a phenomenal job acquiring fantastic young men, character-wise and talent-wise, that'll give us a chance to compete really well next spring. So the next step is getting the guys all to campus. We survived the draft. There were no unexpected surprises in terms of the MLB draft. We've got a great young shortstop coming in, a bunch of young arms. We were joking around the other day, Brian and I were recalling back to the Emilio Estevez movie, Young Guns. That's we're going to have a lot of youth on this roster. So you know what comes with that. A little bit of inexperience, a lot of flashes of brilliance, and we'll have some play at times that looks like we have some freshmen on the field, but it should be very exciting for us.
And even sooner than that, one of the other new faces on campus, Terry Nooner. How have things looked? I've seen a few, foundational hires and players coming in, but how is his roster just in general? He returns probably more than the other two new faces right on campus. And what does that even mean? Like, is it less work in recruiting? Is it just different work in recruiting when you have some faces coming back?
I think it's different work in recruiting. It's identifying quickly. You got to evaluate the current roster and the individuals on that roster. What assets are they bringing? Where are the gaps? Where are the blind spots? So that you can address those strategically in recruiting because you've got less players to recruit. But man, he's done a phenomenal job. We retained the 6A high school state player of the year from Texas that committed under the previous staff, has remained committed to Wichita State. We've got the Division II treasure, the Division II All-American from Emporia State that we beat straight up Oregon and Purdue for her. Terry and his staff have done a phenomenal job. I think there is a distinct Kansas and Missouri, with the Missouri Phenom AAU connections with Nick and Antoine and Terry. They've been able to get some phenomenal young talent to commit to us, but also individuals that are in the portal that have interest in coming back to Wichita who might be from Wichita or the surrounding area. And so I think he's done a masterful job putting his staff together, and they've done some great work here the last couple of months.
All right, Kevin, anything else exciting on the radar here this summer before things get back on campus over the next couple of weeks that, fans can get involved with? We know the TBT will be active, but anything on the plate for you guys before the Greece trip?
Yeah, we're working hard at season ticket sales for both men's and women's basketball and volleyball. These are new sales. We've got some aggressive goals this year to help fund our programs in unique and different ways. So obviously we encourage folks that are interested there to give our ticket office a call. We've got the Black and Yellow Gala in late August, which is kind of we're hearkening back to the old days of one combined auction, the Renaissance and the Roundhouse. And we're combining all of our auctions. We expect a really good night. I think it's August 19th. Certainly would encourage folks to attend. So whereas in the past, guys, we've done separate auctions for volleyball and baseball and basketball, we're combining everything together and making one really, really nice night in Coke Arena. And so just would encourage folks to be a part of that and stay tuned. We've got a lot of daily publications that come out. The Morning Brew, if you go to our website, is something where you can get an email daily that gives you some of the highlights. Stories like Sydney McKinney being nominated for NCAA Woman of the Year. A lot of our fans can stay very closely connected to our program through things like that. And so we got a lot going on. We still got a good chunk of summer. Volleyball student athletes return on August 6th. If you can imagine that, we're just a few weeks away from them starting their fall camp and cross country getting going. And before long will be the first day of classes. So a lot to do, and just appreciate the opportunity to share those things on your show, guys.
We'll do it again in a couple of weeks. Let me look at the calendar here. Is that maybe we won't? Are you going to Greece?
I will be going to Greece.
Okay, so we'll
point,
have to schedule around
we
Greece, I suppose.
Okay, and I use these words very loosely. At some point, we got to have a responsible administrator going with the team. So as the day-to-day basketball administrator, I'll take on that burden and spend 10 days.
Yeah,
with
suffer through it.
In all seriousness, really, really looking forward to getting to know our team and spending more time with our staff. Those are invaluable trips.
Okay, so we'll likely talk to you after Greece, and that's going to be a pretty great conversation. Get those basketball scouting reports ready for us, because that's what we'll want to hear, and we'll try to get Paul Mills in too for an evaluation there. But that is a pretty critical for fans moment to get some idea, maybe a sneak peek of what the team could look like. So we're looking forward to it. We will talk certainly after that. Safe travels out there to Greece, and enjoy the fishing in the meantime.
All right, sounds good. Thanks so much, guys. Really appreciate it. And go Shockers.
There goes Kevin Saul, Wichita State Athletic Director, for his bi-weekly visit with us here on Sports Daily. We'll come back. Still plenty to talk about. Tommy will have thoughts, of course, our resident golf guy, on the Open, or the British Open, coming up tonight, right? Like real late at night or something
Middle
like
of the
that.
night.
Yeah, we'll have that for you if you're a lunatic and want to stay up and watch that. But yeah, you'll have it. Some other things that it's a good TV time. I haven't been watching a lot of TV for a while, but I got two things happening in TV right now that have me interested outside of the sports world, sort of. 869-1240, the IHOP hotline's open. Our appreciation to Kevin Saul. We'll be back with more Sports Daily right after this. Welcome back in, everybody. Sports Daily. Congratulations to Tyler for winning some HTO iced tea today, East or West, coming soon in Derby. Glad to have Tyler and help him cool off out there today. All right, Tommy. We've listened. So Tommy texted me and said, "Hey, we probably need to look ahead to the Open." And I said, "You mean the British Open?" He said, "Yeah, but we don't call it that anymore." Well, this
That's
guy
not the
does.
name of it. That's not the name of the
This
tournament.
guy's still going to call it that. This is the United States of America, where we have the U.S. Open. So the Open is not going to cut it for me. It's the British Open. We've got the U.S. Open. They don't get to have the Open.
How about the
1776.
Can you call it?
We earned that right.
Here
We can call it whatever we want.
Are you okay calling it the Open Championship?
No, I'm still going to call it the British Open.
But that's not the name of it. Like, that's literally not what they call it anymore.
If
they
I
haven't
said
called
the
it
British
that for
Open,
a while.
Look, I'm at cbssports.com right now. And the tab, this is how this is. So everything says Open Championship, but the tab at the top of my screen, where you have your little pages pulled up, says British Open Championship 2023. Okay. Like British Open schedule is on there. It's still the British Open for me.
So this is the background behind it. So you're way behind the times. We're talking like almost 20 years.
Well, that's an understatement.
In 2005, almost 20 years ago, the RNA asked its American broadcast partners to stop saying
What's
British
the RNA?
Open. The Royal and Ancient. That's the organization that puts on the tournament. Asked them to stop saying British Open and stick with only the Open Championship or the Open. That was almost 20 years ago, and you're still stuck on the British Open.
Yeah, because some dudes in Britain aren't going to tell me what to do. They don't have that right. I'm going to call it the British Open, just like we call it soccer and not football. You don't tell me what to do, Europe. Like, over there, if I'm over there, I'll call it the Open Championship or whatever you want me to call it. But right here in my basement in Wichita, Kansas, I'm going to call it the British Open because I can. And everyone will still know what I'm talking about. Because we have the U.S. Open. If you want like this, Pat is it's the U.S. Open. Get out of here.
Guys, it's going to be by next year. It's going to be lucky if it's not called the Saudi Arabian Royal Family Open. So
I mean, that's true.
It could be a lot worse, Jacob.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
And at that point, I'm still going to call it the British Open, Jad. Just like I'm not going to say GEHA Field at Arrowhead Stadium every time I say Arrowhead Stadium. I'm going to just say Arrowhead Stadium. I work for the people, Tommy, not for the RNA. Like they don't write me a check.
Hey, way to stick it to the man. I'm sure that all of those people in England are, I mean, they're hanging on your every word right now.
I'll leave this open invitation right now, RNA. I'm for sale. If you want me to call it what you want me to call it, write me a check. Otherwise, I'm calling it what everybody knows it as, which is the British Open. Just no different than trying to tell me to call it football and not soccer. In the United States of America, it's soccer. And just like a stadium changing names 58 times, I'm sorry, I'm not going, what is it, Climate Pledge Arena or whatever? Like, I'm not saying that. Where is that? Isn't that right?
Know.
That's the name of one of these. But yeah, they want me to call it that. But no, you
like Mile High Stadium has a different name now in Denver.
Yeah.
You know, the Heinz Field is no longer Heinz Field.
Well, Heinz Field was a good one because we called it Heinz Field. That was the same concept, but we still called it that, right? Like if you're the first one in on stadiums, that's when you're in good shape. But if it was, the Home Depot Kauffman Stadium or whatever, or Home Depot, like I'm calling it Kauffman. Like it's not that's just the way it is. You can pay people to do that. And it's here's the other thing. Like people will lecture me about golf because like respectful and like, listen, I subscribe to the John Daly, Happy Gilmore variety of golf. So you got to miss me with that too. Like it's just like, let's just have fun here. It's whatever you want to call it. It starts late tonight. I haven't even looked at the betting odds. I assume Scotty Scheffler's the betting favorite, right?
Yeah,
He's betting favorite on everything these days.
I've got him pulled up right now. Scotty Scheffler is the betting favorite at 7-1. Rory McIlroy right behind him at 8-1. John Rahm 13-1. Brooks Koepka 18-1, and then it goes down from there.
All right. So our locals, I haven't even looked at this, and this is on me because I should have looked at this already, but I haven't. Do we have Sam Stevens in this tournament?
I don't believe so. I don't think he qualified. So I don't think he's playing in this tournament. And
I don't think that Woodland is in there this time either. No, Woodland is in. Woodland's in 125-1. So there's your local interest. If there's other local interest we're overlooking, by the way, let us know. Gary Woodland, actually, Tommy, he's not way down the list here. He's not far behind like Hideki Matsuyama. He's actually ahead of, Phil Mickelson, Patrick Harrington in the odds here. So he is feeling a little bit of love here in the odds, which is interesting. I don't know why that is, right?
I just realized this. Do you know who the largest long shot is to win the Open Championship as far as odds are concerned?
The largest, not off the top of my head.
John Daly is the largest one. At plus 500,000 is his line right now. And he's won the Open Championship before. Of course, that was like 30 years ago. And that's why he's in the field. He's a past champion, but I just thought that was interesting. The largest long shot as far as odds to win the tournament.
Where does John Daly fit in less at a tournament like the British Open, Open Championship, the Open, or the Masters? Like, what
The
would be more?
Masters.
What would
The
be more
Masters for
fitting
sure.
for that outlaw to get the
Yeah.
win?
Because he's won the Open Championship before, so
No, I know. I
he's
just
played
mean
in
like
it
his
forever.
vibe and his style now.
The
Like,
Masters,
where does
the
he
Masters
fit
is
in
so
less?
it's so stodgy and so like formal, and that's not. I mean, I know the Open Championship is also to an extent, but he's for sure more out of place at the Masters.
I want who doesn't love John Daly, by the way? Like, John Daly is the everyman golfer that we've all needed forever. Like, you roll out there, you probably wearing like something that doesn't match. You're just out there having fun. Like, you don't look good, but you just like, he's the scratch golfer we can all get behind.
Yeah.
And
I saw a report of like what he consumed during a round of golf, like in a tournament, and it was like 10 packs of peanut M&Ms, 14 Diet Cokes, like 8 cigarettes, and no water at all during the entire tournament. And I'm like, that's my guy right there. Sign me up.
Well, it is. And it's like this not sustainable. Like, none of us get to live that way. I don't know how he doesn't just like fall over with that, because like it's insane. It's insane to consider like consuming that. If I did that in a day, I feel like I'd be sick for a week. So good on John Daly. Gary Woodland, the local interest there at the British Open. Hey, you know what? I'm at BetMGM right now, Tommy. You know what they call it? Well, okay, so again, this is confusing because they call it the Open Championship, but I look at my tab here and it says British Open odds. I mean, everyone's
maybe
confused
interchangeable names maybe on that app. I don't know. I'm looking at another app right now. They call it the Open Championship. So I think it just kind of depends. Regardless,
well, they
though,
do on the site, but then on the tab, it's just like CBS does. CBS has it like mixed in. It's like they didn't go back and correct it in all the places that it had to be. Like it's the whatever. Jad with the appropriate humor on the Saudi Arabian thing.
And hey,
has that simmered at all? Like, we haven't talked about that. That seems like it's not a done deal. This LIV PGA merger.
It's far from being done. There've been, a couple of things that have happened over the last couple of weeks in court. That, like one thing that came up was that there was a proposal that Tiger Woods and Rory McIlroy would each own live golf teams in this merger. And both, I believe, Tiger and Rory refuted that and said that would never happen. So this is a long way from being settled. And I think it's going to take a while before we have any kind of clarity on what this looks like. The good thing about this tournament happening this weekend is that it's completely separate from any of these tours. It's put on by the Royal and Ancient. It's one of the majors. It's separate. So you can kind of put that to bed, at least for this weekend. But I'm excited for this tournament. It's at Royal Liverpool, which is always a fun course. That link style, that traditional quintessential British link style of course, that's going to be a lot of fun. And really, there's one name I'm looking at here, and I don't know if he can win it or not, but Ricky Fowler has been playing outstanding golf the last month to 2 months or so, and he's actually got pretty decent odds. He's 25-1. To win this whole thing. So I'm looking at him as a potential. I think he'll continue that great golf this weekend.
What about my guy Colin Morikawa? I love as far as the guys that I like to watch outside of the locals. Morikawa, Jason Day, either one of those guys. Those are usually the two I look at.
Yeah, Morikawa's there. Jason Day's. I mean, I don't even know if Jason Day is playing in this tournament, but Morikawa,
he's been down, right?
Yeah, Morikawa's 35-1. There's some pretty good value there, I think, for him. Jordan Spieth, who's won the Open Championship before, he's at 30-1 odds. Dustin Johnson right there too. Really, I think a lot of the focus is going to be on Rory, right? I mean, he's back, overseas, and he hasn't won a major in almost a decade, but he's been very, very close at times. And I think that's why he is the second highest favorite to win this tournament.
Has anybody gained more, I wonder, popularity than in this LIV stuff than Rory McIlroy? Like I feel like he has exploded back onto the radar for just like total rebellion against this. It's been interesting to see that from him. He said he'd rather retire than play in that format.
Yeah. Yeah, no, he has definitely taken up the cause in the PGA Tour against Live Golf. And that's why when all of this broke, this potential merger, he was the first person I thought of that, he had been so vocal and so anti-Live and standing up for the PGA Tour. And then, I think that the overall narrative is that the PGA Tour sold out to the Saudis. And I wondered what that would mean for Rory, and what that would look like for a guy who had been so vocal and been the spokesperson and champion the cause of not selling out to the Saudis. And that's going to be a pretty prominent storyline, I think, as they continue to work this whole thing out.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I mean, he's in a position certainly where he could do that and just be like, you know what? Nope, I'm not doing it. I said it before. I don't know. That thing is hard to follow, quite frankly, and become not that interesting to me. Outside of the long-term ramifications of what it could mean to the sports world if something like that happens, and not just for Saudi Arabia, right? Like if you think about just any foreign entity coming in and buying up sports franchises, right? Like what if China wants to buy an American sports franchise? Are we going to allow that? Right? Like what?
Yeah.
I don't know.
And this is it started to permeate into basketball a little bit. I don't know if you saw Adam Silver recently. He was doing an interview or a press conference or something like that, and he mentioned that as of now, there's nothing to indicate that the Saudis would be owning a team in the NBA. But I don't know. It might just be a matter of time before that sort of thing happens.
I think soccer will be the big venture for them. I've seen tennis as a big venture for them, which would make some sense. I mean, you have to consider
is already there, F1 racing, that sort of thing.
Yeah, like
the Saudis
what's popular
into
across the world. I don't know how much good it's doing the Saudis and whatever image restoration they're trying to accomplish here and buying an NFL team. Like, how many people in the Middle East are watching the NFL? I don't think many, right? Like, so I don't know where those lines draw, but when you think about like basketball is a very global brand. It's not global maybe to where the Saudis would be interested. And listen, this isn't a geopolitical show. I'm guessing here. I'm probably sounding like an idiot to some people, but like China would definitely be interested, I would think, in an NBA team. The NBA is massive in China. I would assume it's the second biggest market for the NBA, if not close to the first for NBA teams. So who's to say if you open Pandora's box here, it's an interesting one to open because what do you do, right? If you're the owners of these teams, you're like, no.
And, also don't forget if the NFL is very serious about expanding to overseas, like Europe teams and that sort of thing, it might be more palatable for the Saudis to own an NFL team in Europe than it would be to come into America.
The NFL is in the best positioning to say no, right? Like, nope, sorry, we don't want your billionaire money. We'll take somebody else's billionaire money. And probably like it sort of depends too, like at some point, and I don't know the answer to this because I'm not smart enough, politically, like how do you stop it? Right. If it's the open market
I think you're looking at it, a little bit smaller than what it could end up being, because keep in mind with golf and the PGA with this merger, it's not like the Saudis are owning a golf team. They are owning the entire league, so what happens if Roger Goodell gets a phone call? Hey, we want to buy the entire NFL. I think that's a long way from happening. And there's a lot of different things in place, probably to prevent that, I would think. But man, that might be a conversation that would be, it's important to maybe start thinking about, like, if it could happen in golf, could it happen in these other sports?
I don't like the thought of it. Let's just let that go away if we could. But golf is sort of the beginning in the beginning frontier, and it is a different situation because it isn't teams. So we'll see. It took that left turn there. The British Open Championship gets going tonight. So we'll keep our eye on that and see if, I guess, Gary Woodland and any other local interest that might pop up. But I love that tournament. I've been joking a lot in this segment. Man, I love that tournament. I love the way it looks. I love the way it feels. It just it never feels comfortable for the golfers for whatever reason. And that's really interesting to watch on TV for me.
It's kind of funny when you start the major season in April with the Masters, typically that's always the second weekend in April. And there are a lot of times where it's still cold here in Wichita. And I get jealous when I'm watching the Masters in Augusta, Georgia, and it looks beautiful and the flowers are blooming and all of that. And, we're dealing with still cold weather in early April. It's the other way around when this tournament, comes to play. It's going to be 105, next week, it looks like. And they're struggling over in England or Scotland or wherever the tournaments are being played for that particular year. And the wind's howling and it's cold and miserable. And it kind of turns the tables a little bit.
We'll see. We'll keep our eye on it. 869-1240 is the number to call. We'll come back. Let's give away some Wind Surge vouchers on the way out here. A 4-pack of those. They're good for any game. So you get the vouchers. You pick the game you want to go to, courtesy of us here at Sports Daily and KFH. Tommy and I will be back. Jad will get us a winner. More Sports Daily right after this.
Daily on KFH.
All right, welcome back in, everybody. It is Sports Daily. It is KFH video streams active today. Congratulations to Keith for winning our Win Surge vouchers. Hope you enjoy your time at the ballpark. Tommy, 50 days away from the start of the NFL season. Does this part of the year drag for you, or does it go really fast? And not like in life, but in the sports world.
Right now, no, but it will probably when we get into the month of August. It's really, really hard for me to watch preseason games and know that really they don't matter. And I try to get locked into them as much as I can. And it's hard. Like you can watch, the quarter that the starters play or whatever, the first couple of drives and they go away. And I so desperately want to watch all of it to feel like I'm back in football. And I just have a hard time doing it. So right now I feel good about it. It's not dragging for me. I get really excited about training camp and, all the different things that go on there and following the roster cuts and all of that. I really struggle when preseason starts.
Yeah, I think that we do learn a lot in the preseason, though. It's sort of one of these things where you just hold your breath and like hope for no injuries as much as anything else. But for some teams, I mean, there are definitely things that need to be answered. All right. So on TV right now, we talked about the quarterbacks. I've now finished a second episode of that. It's slow going. It always is when my wife and I try to watch something together. Here's the other show that popped back on. You Justified fan, Tommy? Did you watch Justified?
I did not. It's always been on a list that I've wanted to watch. I've never gotten to watch it though.
Yeah. So it is, I think, my favorite show ever. It's fantastic. And so they've like redone a season that's like 10 years down the road in a different city. And it got started last night and I'm very excited about it. I have read that it absolutely lives up to the hype of the old show. And the first episode was good. And I'm pretty excited.
Is that Timothy Oliphant? Is that who?
Yeah.
Maybe I've seen like one or two episodes of it.
He becomes like the coolest character in television in the old show. This one's a little bit
like
different.
A Texas Ranger or something, doesn't he?
A U.S. Marshal. Yeah, he's a U.S. Marshal
okay.
in like
Gotcha.
the hills of backwoods Kentucky.
That's right. That's right.
Like in the original.
I'm a
and it's
big
so good.
fan, and I've never watched the show, like maybe outside of an episode or two. The actor that plays the bad guy, Walton Goggins.
I don't know what his. I don't know what his.
I love Walton Goggins. And he does
need to watch
great,
Justified.
He does great drama, but he does awesome comedy also. Like he's teamed up with Danny McBride, and he's been in a couple shows that Danny McBride's been a part of. Have you watched The Righteous Gemstones? Do you watch that on HBO?
No, I haven't.
It's so good. Season 3, it's a comedy. It's on right now, and he's in it. It's awesome.
If you like Goggins, you need to watch Justified because he creates and becomes what I contend is the best bad guy, sort of like in TV history. So compelling, so interesting, so good. He's as good as the other side, which is Timothy Oliphant, railing it. Like it's those two together that make that show so incredible over the years that it exists. You've got to watch that show. So the new one's out now, and basically they take that and they plant Raylan Givens' character in Detroit, which is going to be pretty interesting, and a pretty cool series. So that's, I don't watch a lot of TV anymore. I'm way behind the times in TV, like so far behind the times. It's going to take me 2 months probably to watch that quarterbacks documentary. Maybe not, but like it's really hard for us to sit down and watch shows. Yeah. So I'm excited for this one.
We finished it. We actually watched the final 2 episodes last night. Like my wife and I set aside, like put the kids to bed. We're going to watch 2 episodes a night over 4 nights and get it done. It's awesome. I can't wait for you to finish it because it gets, obviously we know the outcome, but it gets really good.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I really am. It's been really good through the first 2 episodes. All right, 869-1240 is the IHOP hotline. We're going to tell you what's on tap on the network today. Sports Daily returns after this.
Prairie Band Casino wants to know, how do you play?
All right, welcome back, everybody. Jim Rome following us, Bob and Jeff, 2 to 4. Regular programming up until 7 o'clock. Royals taking on the Tigers as we stay laser focused on the performances of the Royals, potentially eligible to be traded. That's what we're really looking at right now for Kansas City. You've also got the TVT tonight. Games begin, I think, at 6, and then you've got Mass Street, which is KU alumni team at 8, and then another game at 10. So congratulations to our WinSurge voucher winner, our HTO free iced tea winner. We'll do it again tomorrow. For Tommy Castor, Jad Chambers, I'm Jacob Albracht. We'll see you then. Yeah, it's fun.